Hi, everybody. How are you doing today? My name is Julie Burgundy, and I'm the Public Education Coordinator at the Dole Institute of Politics in Lawrence, Kansas. And we have a really cool building that looks like this. And today, I have a question for you. Does anybody know what day it is? Let's first start out. What day of the week is it? Just a second. And so we know that it's Wednesday. And it's also April 22nd. And so today is actually also a date that could be on your calendar. It's called Earth Day. We're going to be celebrating everything about Earth today. And since I'm in the archives today and I'm making sure everything's okay, I hope you guys are staying safe at home, and I'm making sure the archives are safe here. But in the archive, we learn all about past laws. And so Congress helps pass laws to protect our natural resources and to manage all of those responsibly. And so what are some other laws that you know? Maybe a couple weeks ago when we talked about Secretary Elizabeth Dole and Transportation, Department of Transportation, we learned about seatbelts, right? So when you get in your car, you put your seatbelt on all the time. That's a great idea because that's a law. What about stop signs? Is that a law also? Yes. What about taxes? Yeah, that's a law also. So there's lots of pieces of legislation that went through Congress, and Senator Dole was a part of many of those. And so today we're going to be talking about the earth and the environment because it's Earth Day, April 22nd. And 1970 was the very first Earth Day. And so we do some math. How many years ago was the very first Earth Day? 1970. This is 2020. And we do some subtraction for 1970. How many decades ago was that? So decades are spans of 10 years at a time, and that's been quite a few. So 2020 minus 1970 is 50 years. Wow, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary birthday of Earth Day. And so before 1970, different groups are fighting individually against oil spills and pollution in factories and power plants and sewage and toxic dumps, pesticides, the building of freeways, loss of wilderness, extinction of wildlife. That's a lot of stuff to be talking about. But they all united on Earth Day around these shared common values. And so Earth Day in 1970 achieved a rare political alignment, enlisting support from Republicans and Democrats, the rich and the poor, urban dwellers and farmers, business and labor leaders. And so in April, we have Earth Day. And then a few months later, President Richard Nixon promoted the foundation of the Environmental Protection Agency. And today we shorten that to EPA. Does anybody know where we got the words EPA from? Environment, E, the first letter of protection, P, and agency, A, EPA. And so that has benefits for regulating things in our environment so we can have a better community and resources. And so by the end of 1970, the first Earth Day led to the creation of the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the passage of other first-of-their-kind environmental laws, including the National Environmental Education Act and the Occupational Safety and Health Act, the Clean Air Act. And then 2 years later, Congress passed the Clean Water Act. And then sometime after that, they passed the Endangered Species Act. So there's lots of pieces of legislation going through Congress, all surrounding our environment. And I was searching in the Dole archives for things on the environment and Earth Day, and there's a lot of stuff in the Dole archives about this. You can learn about hazardous waste, Clean Air Act, coal slurries, Colorado wilderness, elephant protection, Flint Hills Wildlife Refuge, the fur seal trade, lead in our water, recycling, strip mining, wild and scenic rivers, Safe Drinking Water Act. All of that can be found in the archives. And so that is a lot of stuff to observe and take in, but we just know that if we help our environment a little bit, it will be good for everybody in the long run. And so I want to just share with you that Senator Bob Dole promoted these regulations that were supported by the Environmental Protection Act for Kansas, us, the people of Kansas. So this meant clean water for farmers, utilizing the Ogallala Aquifer. Remember, it has a lot of L's in it. Ogallala as a natural resource and a water supplier. And we're going to be talking about the Ogallala Aquifer in just a second. But first, I wanted to share with you some press releases from Senator Dole. And I want to show you the very first press release about Earth Day in 1970. So we're going to take a look at this one together. And I'll give you a hint that this is from 1970, because it does not give us a very good clue. But it says, today, Earth Day has been set aside to deepen our understanding of the complex ecological processes affecting our government, United States Senator Bob Dole said. Concerned Americans are asking themselves what they can do to restore the kind of government they want for themselves and the kind that future generations deserve to inherit. There has been pollution throughout the history of mankind, but not until now have we reached a stark realization that no man can no longer disregard the consequences of his lifestyle. It is important that we all are aware of our environmental ills, but our attention must be directed towards solving the problems instead of blaming various sectors of our society for creating. Dole is a member of the Senate Air and Water Pollution Subcommittee. So this was the very first Earth Day press release from 1970. Now, the next one I want to share with you is from 1996. So actually, Senator Dole's last Earth Day in office as a senator. And I want you to put your history detective lens on and see if you can tell the differences between this one from 1970 and this one from 1996. What do you first notice that's different about these two? Looks like we have a picture on the top. The other one didn't have a picture. It was kind of plain looking. And it looks like we have a letterhead, so some words that are always at the top there. And this was released on April 22nd, 1996. As America marks Earth Day 1996, I would like to remind my friends across the aisle that the environmental heritage we are also proud of was forged under Republican stewardship. Our Republican environmental heritage stretches all the way back to Ulysses S. Grant, who established Yellowstone as one of the first crown jewels of our precious national parks. President Theodore Roosevelt set up the National Wildlife Refuge System and promoted the value of conservation. It was Republicans under President Nixon who created the Environmental Protection Agency and enacted the first Clean Air and Clean Water Act. Under Presidents Ford, Reagan, and Bush, we enacted and implemented the majority of the enabling statutes to protect our environment. An important Clean Air Act revision in 1990, which introduced initiatives like using markets to achieve our goals, has helped to set new directions for the future. The progress we have made as a nation over the last 25 years deserves praise. We saw problems that needed to be addressed, setting pollution standards to protect public health and dealing with pollution that crosses state and international boundaries. We responded with laws that I was proud to support, laws that address those problems in the best way we knew then. And so Senator Dole continues on talking about different pieces of legislation, so the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, in ways to protect our Earth. But I have a question for you. I want everybody to take a deep breath in and blow it out. And again, was that air nice and clean? Did you go outside yesterday or today? Today might be a little rainy. But did you have a glass of water today? That's really important. Was it nice and clear and crisp? That's all thanks to the Safe Drinking Water Act. And so if we have clean air and clean water, and hopefully that will help the rest of the environment and our resources as well, if we're healthy too. So I want to show you another thing from the archive specifically about water. So I'm going to flip you around here. And we're going to be looking at first at this large graph or map. And this is all about the Ogallala Aquifer. And actually, specifically, this is the High Plains Aquifer, but we also call it the Ogallala. And we have different states here. So we can see Kansas. And Oklahoma is beneath us. And Colorado's to the west of us. Nebraska. And all of the colored area is parts of the aquifer. So this is all water that is underneath our feet that help feed the water that we use for irrigation and such. And so this is a naturally occurring resource. And the different colors of this key talk about the water level changes in feet over time. And so the reds and the orange means that they've lost a lot of water. And the blues and the greens up here mean they've actually gained water. So here in Kansas, which the aquifer spreads across, especially the western part of the state, we're mostly yellow. We do have a little bit of red and orange in the southwest corner of Kansas there. But this graph is taken, what is in the Dole archives, and so Senator Dole was given it to use for legislation, but this is from 1981. So we're in year 2020. Let's do some more math. How old is this map? About 40 years old. And so can you make any inferences on how the aquifer water levels could have changed from 1981 till now? If we were to see a new graph, it would be pretty interesting to look at. Another material from the archive is this comic book on water that we found. And I'm going to flip it over, and on the bottom it says, this booklet was published by the Soil Conservation Society of America. So they're talking about soil, but the topic of this comic book is actually water. That's weird. Do you think water and soil are related then to each other? You think they have a lot to do with each other? Yeah, so if we open this up, it looks like there are kids going on a field trip. And I'll give you a hint. This is actually from 1982. This was published. And they're learning that water is more important than we ever dreamed. And they can learn about the water cycle of how it goes up and it comes back down as rain. Learning about oceans versus surface water, atmospheric water, and how we can use it for power and navigation, manufacturing, agriculture. Water is very, very important. And then we can also learn about words that help us understand water, like evaporation, erosion, irrigation, precipitation. Some of those might be some pretty big words for some of you, but I'm sure you'll learn all about the water cycle very soon. And actually, I learned a word today. I learned the word tilth, the physical condition of the soil. So we're always learning. So I think this comic book is pretty cool. And so this comic book has been digitized along with a lot of other things on water and air and climate change. And that is actually on our website. And so I'll post those links on the Facebook live feed after this is done. Now, I also found some constituent letters in the archive, and we learned about that big word in our very first episode when we learned what an archive is. Constituent letters are letters from us, like the regular people, that got sent to Senator Dole, and they're in these big yellow boxes with lots and lots of folders on different topics. And I searched for things about Earth Day and the environment. I'm going to read some of these out to you. So this is from Warren Vest of Overland Park, Kansas, and it says, "Dear Senator Dole, I am 12 years old and am doing this for Boy Scouts," meaning he's writing a letter. "I would like to know if I could do anything about the pollution problem in our community, as I'm very concerned about this problem in our community. Please give me any information about it that you can. Sincerely, Warren Vest. P.S. Could I have an autographed picture of you if it's no trouble?" And just like almost every single letter that Senator Dole received, he did respond to it. And so May 23rd, 1977, we have this response. "Dear Warren, thank you for your recent letter. I am always pleased to hear from young people and to be of any assistance I can. I am glad to know of your concern for the pollution problems in your community. Of course, there are many kinds of pollution, and every community has a different type of problem. Some areas are plagued by air pollution problems, others have water pollution problems. These are very complex problems, and it's difficult for young people to do much to aid in the solution. However, there are ways young people can help to improve their communities. Many scout troops make projects of collecting litter along the roadsides or operate collection centers for recyclable waste. These are ways you and your troop can help solve the pollution problems in your neighborhood. Again, thank you for taking the time to write. As you requested, I'm enclosing my picture. Best wishes as you continue your scout work. Sincerely yours, Bob Dole, United States Senator." Another letter that I found is from Brian in Topeka, Kansas. And it says, "Dear Senator Dole, what are you going to do about the pollution? The pollution is getting bad. Trees are dying and people are getting sick. The waters are polluted and the air is polluted and the noise is polluted. Pollution is bad. What are you going to do? How can I help? Your friend, Brian Scott Razor." So kids are writing to their senators or representatives on issues that are important to them, of seeing what they can do about pollution. How can they help? And our last letter today is from Cindy Bogard of Lawrence, Kansas. And it says, "Dear Senator Dole, I am a 9th grade student at West Junior High in Lawrence, Kansas. I'd like to express my opinion on some environmental problems. A great deal has been done for pollution control, but it's being forgotten. I think pollution is still a big problem. We need some new ideas on how to keep America clean. The government can help by putting some controls on the ways containers are made. For example, I think all cans should be aluminum or at least recyclable. This would be a great help. Everyone should get involved again, but with more people and more power. Another topic I like to discuss is the destruction of near extinct animals. These creatures have done us no wrong, but we kill and maim them all the same. The wild horse is part of our history. He is a beautiful animal and should be protected from the dog food and glue industries. Many things are being done for the wild horse, but more legislation by the government will help in this area. For example, the horse adoption program is a very good idea. Many people are willing to care for these horses, but they need help and support through the government. Other animals also need help. The whale is in great danger along with millions of other animals. We have to protect our environment so our environment can protect us. Thank you for your time. Sincerely yours, Cindy Bogard." And this last letter, was this written on a computer? Or did we learn a couple weeks ago about that old thing called a typewriter? So yes, this was written on a typewriter. This is from 1977, but our other letters were written by hand. Both of these actually in cursive. Have you ever written in cursive before? Sometimes they look kind of weird. Sometimes it's hard to read them. But all of these letters were sent to Senator Dole, writing about an issue that they were passionate about. And so what I would like us to do now is to learn how to write our own letter. So write a letter to your representatives. So these are some key elements that we should find in all of our messages, whether it's on an email or in a letter that we send in the mail. And just give you an example. This is a letter from Diana, and she is also a Girl Scout. And it says, "Dear Sir, I'm a Girl Scout from Baldwin City, Kansas. My name is Diana." So the first few things we want to break down in this letter is she gave a salutation. She said hello at the very beginning. She introduced herself and where she was from. Now on the top left, it's always really important to put our date so we remember what time it got sent. So she forgot this one, but I want you to remember that all the time. And on the top right, she included the address that this letter was going to. And as we skip down to the middle, I want to know why you're writing. So let's say we're writing a letter to our senator or representative, or maybe the mayor of your city, or possibly the principal of your school. If there's something that's really important to you, I want you to write it down and give your opinion. That's really important to do. So why are we writing? So she's writing about just kind of introducing herself and telling she's a Girl Scout and how she visited the Capitol. But in your letter to your representative, I want you to discuss something about Earth Day, or picking up trash on the side of the road, or like those other letters we just read about pollution. You can also draw pictures. I'm sure everybody loves to see your drawings. That's another great thing we can put in this letter. And towards the bottom, I want you to ask some questions of this person. Of what can you do about this situation, or what can adults help you? And also ask for a response. And don't forget to sign your name at the very bottom and include your address. And so here's some other important points. So we want to keep it short. We don't want to go on for pages and pages. We want to get to the point. We need to use facts. So if you know any facts of just saying maybe you picked up a lot of trash on the road and we think that should be diminished, go lower. We don't want to see as much trash on the road. Relate it back to you and your family. Provide some background of out of all the years you've been alive, you see lots of trash and you want to decrease that, but always keep it positive, and close with a friendly appeal. So be positive and say, I hope this gets done, and I hope you can help me. And don't forget to include your contact information too. So this may be some of your first time ever writing a letter, and that's okay. And we want to make sure we have all those important points of the letter of our address, and be friendly, use facts. We don't want to have any name calling or put anybody down. This is just an informational letter giving your opinion to somebody else. So whether you're writing it to the principal or the mayor, your opinion is very, very important. So we want to make sure we have all those parts of those letters correct. And then we also, if you send it in the mail, so you could write it as an email, but if you do send it in the mail, we want to make sure we address our envelope correctly. And so here's my example of an envelope. And on the top left corner, you always want to put your address. So you're going to put your name, and then the address and the house that you live at right now. And then in the middle section, we're going to put the address that you're sending it to. So this one was addressed to the Honorable Robert Dole. So you can send it to your mayor or the city council. And then don't forget the mailing address, the building that they're working in or living in. And then on the top right, I want you to put that stamp on there. So we have a top left section, a middle section, and a top right section. And all three of those are very important for addressing your envelope correctly so it gets to the right spot. Because if you put this address in a different corner, then it might not get to the right spot, the right address. So we need to make sure it's on the top left, in the middle, and your stamp. So I invite you to send your letters off. You can also maybe send a picture, or you can make a poster of how you want to save the whales, or protect wildlife, or help pick up trash. I want you to draw a poster of what is really, really important for you. Another example of like an idea that we could do this week to celebrate Earth Day is to make some cool hats. And I have two examples here. And I call these Defender of the Earth hats. So they're pretty cool. They're just a piece of paper surrounding there. And this one says Defender of the Earth. And on the front, we have a cool globe that we colored in. And you can just put these on your head and say, I want to protect Earth. I want to keep it clean and healthy. And you want to show off that you can protect the Earth. So if you got some construction paper laying around, some colored pencils, this is a great idea for that. All right. Well, I hope you enjoy learning about Earth Day in the archives and learning about environmental protections and how to keep our Earth healthy. And so today we want to celebrate that. So if it's not raining, go outside, take a walk, look at all the birds and the grass, and think about how important that clean air and clean water are. And also think about how all that came from our government and the laws to keep us safe. All right, well, join us next time. We're going to be discussing elections. We're going to hear cool stories about Senator Dole's campaign materials and why we have pineapple juice in the archives. And on next week, we're also going to be celebrating Kansas Day. So even though Kansas Day is January 29th, we're going to be celebrating it at April 29th and learning all about Kansas here in the archives. All right, well, join us next time. Thanks for watching. See ya.